Just thinking about. But well, lots of funny moment, but and long period also. It's a strength of the organization which has changed. It's has become a really international organization. It wasn't that before. I've been for a long time the Secretary General of CICOP, then later on the Regional Director of the ICA for the European region, for Cooperatives Europe. And as at that time the European region was the strongest part in the worker cooperative and industrial cooperative and service cooperative sector, we assumed, and I assumed particularly for more than 12 years, the role of the Secretary General of CICOPA. And you have to remember that at that time the ICA went through its decentralization process. So most of my experience as Secretary General of CICOPA was first to structure the regions. At that time there was only one federation. We didn't have regions in Africa, we didn't have regions in the Americas, we didn't have regions in the Asia Pacific. So I went to most of these countries, trying to build up, meet them, and trying to organize the regional sector organizations. I went to Kenya, Tanzania, and I went to Japan, I went to Colombia. And every time I tried to meet as much as possible organizations to try to organize the sector. That's one of the experiences I had. The other one is it's also this time where worker cooperatives became a little bit more recognized at institutional level. You have to remember there was the first document of the UN in 2001 about the importance of cooperatives in development, and then later in 2002, and Bruno was certainly the ghostwriter of this report, the ILO report on the role of cooperatives in poverty alleviation. And this was certainly sort of the main focus during these years. My last year as CICOPA president, I went to Colombia because there was a new election then in Cartagena, and I traveled in Colombia with the future president of CICOPA, which came from Colombia. And it was the time where Colombia was still very dangerous. I remember we traveled from one cooperative to the other in the countryside, and we had armed guards behind and armed guards before to visit some of the agriculture cooperatives, worker cooperatives there, some textile cooperatives and things like that. It was a very special experience. I would wish CICOPA the capacity to aggregate all new forms of worker involvement in businesses, in cooperative forms, and at the same time, because I think it's and will always be the most real part of the cooperative movement. When workers are implied in the business, it's their life, it's their work, it's really the main point in their life. When you're in a consumer cooperative, yes, you're a consumer, but have lots of other things to do. If you're in a bank, okay, you have your spare account there, but you don't have this very strong relationship to the cooperative form and the participative democracy in the enterprise. And that, I think, it's the strength of CICOPA, and I think we will always be, I think, the part of where innovation will come from. When you see today what is happening in many countries in the world, in in the Americas, but also in Europe. All the new forms of new solidarity businesses which take cooperative structures are mainly in the worker cooperative field. It's bringing together people to work together, to share their activities, and I think it's a very strong tool to be an alternative to our, I would say, neoliberal dominant capitalistic society, which has done a lot of damage to our planet and to people. And I think it can be a solution for many countries to come out of poverty, to come out of environmental damages and disasters, because we are, I think, more respectful to people, but also to our environment. And I think it will come from a local base, and that's where cooperatives have their roots. Please.
Is the coffee good?
The coffee is very good, yeah.